Listen, I try to capture your moments of brilliance because there's not that many of them, if I'm being honest.
Ooh.
Love that.
That's a joke.
Love that to start the episode.
That's a joke. Obviously, that's a
You're
joke.
not very good at podcasts. Let's start a podcast.
That's fair. All right, and we're off. Very special guest with us today, Janie Takeda Reed, Olympic softball player. Welcome to the podcast.
Thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Is it?
It is. Yeah.
Okay. It's been a long time coming. We should. Our listeners, obviously, if they haven't figured out by now, you're the wife of former guest Jake Reed.
Jake Reed is my husband.
Very popular episode, so you do kind of have some big shoes to fill.
He did really well.
Yeah. When most people ask me what I think the best episode is, I say his episode.
No, it was very entertaining, start to finish.
Yeah. This is your first explicit podcast that you've been on.
It is.
We're gonna try to keep it clean, but
Yeah, no curse words for Janie.
D-Watch is a wild card, so
I threw out a few just to kind of see where we're at. I think poop is
that's not a curse
as hard
word.
as we're gonna go.
That's clean. We're also not going to talk about
appreciate
poop.
that.
So
No, that's
we've
fine,
had
yeah.
some complaints in the past
Yeah.
about how much we talk about.
Bennett called me baby ears last week in the gym, so.
That's true. All right, so let's start off with you just got back from spring training for the Olympic softball team, Team USA.
You could call it that, yeah.
What else would you call it?
We just call it training camp.
All right, cut that. Janie, you just got back from training camp for Team USA. How was that? It was like a 2-week. Yeah, so you do like 2 weeks on, you have some off time,
Yeah.
you go back. Can you talk about that experience and just in general kind of training for the Olympics? You're our first Olympian in a very weird time with COVID. You were supposed to obviously have the Olympics last year, getting ready for is there still some uncertainty, or like do you know, is there a set date when you're leaving, or is there still like where you still don't know if we're even going to have an Olympics this year?
They say that the Olympics are going to happen no matter what. End of July, which is the same time they were going to start in 2020. They moved it just a whole year later. But yeah, normally, so we had a 7-month-long tour scheduled from end of January leading into the Olympics for 2020. And obviously we only completed like a month of it. And so then rescheduling for this year, it's like 2-week training camp in one location, 2 weeks off, 2 weeks on, that type of thing. So it's not like we're traveling around and playing a bunch of games like we were supposed to, but it's still gonna get the job done because we have the best softball players in the world.
Are you calling gold medal right now?
I mean, that's the standard, yes.
Right, obviously. That's the goal.
Yes.
Is that the goal for every country going to the Olympics? Do you think some countries just know they're not going to win gold medals?
I think maybe, but they wouldn't. You wouldn't say that. You wouldn't go to the Olympics.
There's some. We're just glad to be here at the Olympics.
Yeah.
I feel like that happens a good amount.
Yeah.
I'm trying to get a hot take right off the bat. Which country is the worst prepared for the Olympics?
I'm not going to say
man.
that. I'm not going to say that.
You don't have an answer for
I'm
me?
just not going to answer that.
All right. But you have one in your head.
No, actually.
Okay.
No.
All right. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Oh, I forgot to pull up my notes. D-Wash, ask her a question.
All right, I'm gonna take another shot at Bennett's question. What's the team you feel like you're most prepared to play?
Can I ask it a different way, actually?
No. I actually have a real one. Like, okay, is there a team? Is there a team that you're excited to play the most?
I think that the battle has been between the U.S. and Japan since U.S. lost to Japan in 2008. So Japan won the gold medal, USA won silver, and then softball got taken out of the Olympics. So there's never been like a true redemption. We've beat them many times since then in like worlds and things like that, but that's always the team that we're probably preparing for the most. Not looking past anybody else, but that's
Right.
like we're visualizing like gold medal game is us in Japan.
Nice.
Yeah.
How come the sounds always start right when we're doing podcasts?
They know.
Like the moving trucks, they only move when we're doing podcasts.
It's some. I just watched like the Truman Show last night. It's just like that. Like someone's like they're on radios like, hey,
Right.
they're starting. Let's get it going.
So you think everything in the world revolves around your day to day?
Yeah, everybody is in on what's going on in my life.
So
in my mind.
you're Jim Carrey in this in this sense.
I think that's the idea. Is everybody is supposed to be Jim Carrey in the Truman Show.
I thought you were saying you specifically.
Like, would you want to be an extra in somebody else's Truman
I'd want to
Show?
be the friend that was like in on it, type of thing.
He kind of looks like you.
All right. Moving on. All right. So I think we should get into one of the things I want to talk about, kind of how we met, and just in general, when you're talking about a female athlete. We met in the gym. Kind of. We don't need to go over the story. You heard Jake Reed's episode. We talked about it. But I want to talk about your feelings of in that environment. I haven't asked the question, so please don't laugh. Your feelings in that environment being the only woman in that environment, and like what your feelings were going into it, and if it changed, if you felt like disrespected, if you feel, I'm not gonna tell you all the feelings that you're supposed to feel, but kind of what do you think about that?
I think that like part of it is my personality, and then part of it is like the dynamic of being like the only girl with a bunch of guys training in a gym, because I'm pretty quiet at first.
Okay, at first.
I mean, I feel like for the first 2 years that I knew you guys, like I didn't say much to either of you. So I think it's like that, but then it's also, I think it made it hard that like Jake was my significant other, and then like we got married in 2017, so for like most of the time that we've been training together with the whole group, we've been married. And I felt like that made it harder on me to like assimilate into the group, because I was like Jake's wife, not just like an athlete that happened to be training in that environment. But I like it obviously helped that I have been trained by Jono since I was 18, so I like had a relationship with him. But yeah, it's pretty intimidating, I would say.
Did that eventually go away? Like, or you would say now you're not intimidated?
No,
anymore,
yeah,
'cause
now I'm not.
Like, how long did that process take?
I just like in my mind, I'm picturing the old gym in, where was that, Miramar?
Yeah.
And just so uncomfortable every day. I felt like I was just like awkward and just being like today even just I was thinking about this, like asking someone, are you using this? Are you using this?
Right.
Are you using this? Like at that place, like I would just observe until I knew like something wasn't being used. Like I was just so, I don't know.
That's a terrible feeling.
It was a bad feeling. Yeah.
Like you like almost like don't belong there.
Yes, that's kind of what it felt like. And then you guys would play spike ball. Right. No one invited me ever to play.
You gotta kind of get yourself in there. It's not one of those, you're invited to. It's a, hey, I'm here to play.
And then I remember one time I was like, Jake, we should bring Starbucks to the gym, because it was like Christmas, the last workout before Christmas, and nobody drank the coffee.
Yeah.
I just was putting in so much effort, and just didn't feel like I could really break into the community.
Can I, one thing that I thought when did we meet? Or like, do you know when me and Jake met? Like, what year is this you're talking about?
Was it 17 or was it 16?
Because I thought right whenever we met, or even when I met Jake, like you were already married.
Okay, maybe we were.
So I was thinking, because I was going to ask you, if that wasn't the case and you got married after the fact, I'd like to know how long after the fact, because then I think we're getting into some gray area of why I wasn't invited to the wedding.
Actually, I think that, because I was still living in Orange County before we got married. So it must have been right after we got married. Okay. Which is totally why you weren't invited to the wedding.
I mean, I think I maybe should have been in it, if I'm being honest.
No, but I want to ask you guys, like,
absolutely,
what was I like invisible? Was it like weird because you can't have maybe the conversations you want to have because there's like that one girl in there? That
Can I ask you, do I strike you as someone that ever thinks I can't have this conversation because so-and-so's around?
I'm just asking.
Do you want to take that? You want me to take that first?
I mean, I think that's an individual by individual, right? Mm-hmm. I know for me, I was actually thinking about this, like, as much as I do talk in the gym, like, it's very, like, me and Bennett would get locked in talking for, like, hours. Right. And, like, I would talk to Jono a lot about working out. But, like, outside of that, you know, if it's not like the one thing that I know how to talk about, just like sports or like working out, then I was just kind of like, nah, I'll be over here dancing somewhere.
Yeah.
Right off, you're definitely not invisible. Anytime we've had a girl come in, I just more go, I 100% respect that person.
Oh, that's cool.
I'm like, that's awesome.
Yeah, I think there's a doubt like in your mind, like what do they think about like, you know, me being here, like, or what do they think about me as an athlete?
Right.
Because I think there's an assumption, at least on my end, that like all of you guys are investing in your craft just like I am, and we're all professional athletes. But I don't always know if like men always respect that. Like,
well, some men don't. I can't speak for all men. I was gonna say, do you think any of it has to do with just overall disrespect for female athletes, where like then that gets in your head, you go, so I'm gonna start there. I'm going to assume that almost they don't respect me, and then I'll try to go from there, as opposed to being like, of course I'm belonging. We're all just trying to get better, like, you know.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Oh. And I think that, like, I think money has a part to play in it, you know, because I'm on the USA team, but not making nearly anything, whereas, like, a lot of the guys in the gym are either playing in the big leagues or you sign for a good amount of money, and it just seems like more of a career. So mine seems more, and my season has always been short because of our budget, so it's like we play from June to August, and I haven't made the Olympic team, but I'm like on the national team every year. So it's just this weird dynamic of, like how does my career look in comparison to theirs?
That's so interesting because I can't speak for everyone in there, but the people that aren't big leaguers, people like me who have been either lifetime minor leaguers or played internationally, like, I think everyone is almost, I don't want to say ashamed of their career, but like everyone's like, I haven't quite made it yet, you know?
Right.
So it seems like that's interesting you say that, because when you're worried about maybe these people thinking that about you, they're thinking about that themselves. I've never looked at someone and be like, you know, look down on like their career or whatnot, because I'm constantly like, I haven't gotten to where I wanted to go, type of thing. So that's kind of funny. I've always just been fascinated by Olympians in general, or anyone training for the Olympics, because, you know, every off season is the same for me and D-Wash. We're getting ready. We know when the season's going to start. The Olympics is only once every 4 years. I know there's stuff in between, but you're basically putting all this work in for this one small period of time every 4 years. And especially like last year when then it doesn't end up happening, there's got to be some sort of like letdown of, I put all this work in. I've been training. I've been doing all this. I'm ready to go. And then nothing happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And like, this is my 7th season with the USA team. And I've never been to an Olympics because softball was taken out in 2008 and then put back in for 2020. It's already not in for 2024. So it's literally like once in a whatever span, and so the next time it could possibly be in is 2028 in LA.
Oh.
So that's like 20 years. So it's like we have 6 games in a span of 20 years where we're trying to like accomplish this huge goal. So there are girls on my team that have been playing for 10 years on this team, have never been to an Olympics. So it's a lot of build up.
To me, that makes it like more exciting from a viewer standpoint of like how important this, like, let's say you get to the gold medal game and it's versus Japan or whatnot. Like, this is, everyone involved is like, this is, for a lot of us, our last chance to do this. Yeah. That's the kind of shit I like to see. Yeah. That's right. I said it.
Way to get the first one out of
I felt so uncomfortable.
Put the E next to the episode now.
I have to.
Yeah, but I think, like, from an athlete perspective.
Sorry, Susan.
It's. I don't know if she'll love that or hate that.
I'll cut it out.
From an athlete perspective, it's I don't know. I wonder if it's kind of the same as if like someone told you in 7 years you're gonna make it to the big leagues for a year, but in that 7 years, like you're just gonna be like you're going to be a minor leaguer. You know, it's like it's just a long build up to. Like, and so it being delayed another year, it's kind of like that. Oh, I was kind of ready for for that to all be like on the downhill now. But
are you going into it? Well, actually, first I wanted to say, D-Wash, how many people you think would sign that deal? You got to be a minor leaguer for 7 years, but then you're guaranteed to be a big leaguer for a year.
Oh, 100%. People
I think
sign up for 7 years.
That's what I'm saying.
With absolutely no guarantee of the big league.
That's what I'm saying. So when you said that, I was like, every single person would
that's
sign that in a
true.
heartbeat.
Yeah.
Most of us are doing it for 7+ with no guarantee. But, I forgot what I was going to say after that. Oh, well, that's actually not what I was going to say. But I thought easy transition, you talked about, the money aspect of it. I was told that you had a hot take on the wage gap.
The more I think about it, the more I'm like, maybe it's not controversial. Yeah. But
the controversial part is that you didn't let me finish the question.
Okay, sorry.
I was told you had a hot take on the wage gap between, I'm assuming, just women athletes and male athletes, or just is this across the board in every job? I'm assuming this is sports related.
Yeah.
Right.
No, softball related.
Okay, so just softball related.
Yeah.
Okay, because I was going to take it to like all the female sports.
Well,
like
I
like
guess
WNBA is
it
obviously
could
talking about it.
It could apply to some, but...
All right, so let's get your hot take.
Well, I just think that, like, I've seen a handful of softball players say, like, if I was a guy, I would be making this much money, which I agree with. Like, if you were a guy and you were as good as you are in softball, in baseball, you would be making a lot more money. But you can't just, like, expect to make the same amount of money as a baseball player just because your talent level is the same. Like, you still need a commodity to be able to bring in money to then make money. So I think that when people want to just demand money because they deserve it, it's like, well, a lot of people deserve money.
Right.
We have to find a way that there is money to pay. Right. Which there isn't.
Right. I think everyone agrees, we wish that everyone was paid what they deserved and could be paid more and whatnot. Yeah. Like you said, a lot of people don't understand where that money comes from.
Right.
When you're talking about the big leagues, any professional sport, like where that money is coming from. It's not just, it's not like people are just out there being like, well, they're men, so we'll give them more money. It's it's fans, it's people watching, it's TV rights, it's all that kind of stuff. That, it's like, it seems to me, I've always thought the way to increase women athletes being able to get paid more is them essentially being watched more, and the more interest there is in them, the more money then there will be. And the thing that I think is interesting is another thing I was going to ask you about is that would start, to me, it doesn't just have to be women, it could be men too, but people being more invested in it and watching more. And I know you're the kind of person, and talking to your husband, you don't necessarily love watching sports. So would you say that, do you think that would be a place for it to start if more women consumed like women's softball or women's soccer or WNBA, all these, leagues like men do, and I mean, obviously women watch NFL and stuff like that too, but if they consumed it at the same rate that men are consuming NFL and NBA and whatnot, like, to me that would obviously
I think that
it
starts with, so we have to be on TV in order for people to watch us. So that's the hard part too, is that, like, it's like, what came first, the chicken or the egg? It's like, we're not on TV because people aren't like demanding that they want to see us, but then if they saw us, then they would like ask for, so it's, that part is hard, which is why, like, the league that I played in August through October was Athletes Unlimited. Like, they wanted to try to tap into how can we make softball into a commodity and, form this whole, like, new structure of the league. And so it took someone that's, like, an investor and just has a lot of money and wants to try to turn, because they believe in softball and now they're in women's volleyball and lacrosse, but they believe in it. They just believe that it hasn't been given, like, what it needs in order to thrive. So it takes people to believe in it first. But then also, like, last week I watched the U.S. women's national team, soccer team, play in a game because I am a fan of the team, and I do think it's important that, because I was thinking, I've never been to a women's soccer game. I've never been to a women's basketball game, like, professionally. Like, I would go in college, but yeah, there's, like, a responsibility on our end to where, like, if we want people to watch us, like, we need to form a community of people that like supports each other. So I think, but then there is the other end, like where it's not like I don't enjoy watching sports. It's just not as much of my favorite thing as it is Jake's. To where it's like I'll watch, this is kind of funny, but like when I'm on the road, I turn on sports because it makes me feel like I'm at home.
No, I don't think that's weird.
This is what's always on at home. Right. It makes me feel like more at home. So I do watch sports. I just am not like, I have to watch this game.
Right, but I'm saying the fact that so many people do feel that way about the NFL and the NBA and whether it be Major League Baseball or soccer over the world, like that is why they make so much money. Is because so many people do feel like my day is around watching these teams play.
And another thing,
and that's where the money's coming from.
Right.
That's why these TV deals are, at least to my knowledge, that's why these are signed. That's why these networks will spend so much money on these games, because so many people will watch them.
Yeah.
So to me, like I've seen a lot of women that are very much when U.S. women's soccer was asking, for what they were asking for, and the WNBA has become a big thing. And I'm like, yeah, I totally agree. I'd love it if they're paid more. But then I'm like, hey, did you watch the game? They're like, no, I don't really watch. I'm like, well, that's kind of the problem, because you would never get me to say that about an NFL game or, an NBA playoffs or something like that. Like, that's why me and Jake became close, is because that's what we love to do. We love to just watch sports.
Which I think the soccer team is different.
Right.
Because I feel like they do bring in a lot of revenue.
So my understanding is that they bring in more than the men.
Yes.
So that's why they were like, just the percentages are off.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
So when I saw that, like that to me was the biggest one of like, that's, again, if that's true, like then that's obviously, because I don't really understand how national teams get paid. You would probably.
It's by their federation. So like USA softball pays us out of their budget, but it's not directly out of like the revenue that we bring in or anything like that. It's most of it is because USA softball is the national governing body, so they have grassroots and leagues everywhere, and those registration fees go to the national office, and then they make money, and then they decide how much they want to budget to pay each one of us. And then we also get a small stipend from the USOPC.
Right. So in a situation where, is it that the budget is the same for women's soccer and men's soccer, but men's soccer just gets a bigger percentage of it? Or
I don't know.
Because I don't understand. That was my thing of, if women's soccer is bringing in more money than men, obviously they should be making more.
So who is like the union in this situation?
So that's kind of what USA Soccer, I think, is beginning. Like I think they're trying to do like some joint union with like some other female athletes. I don't know. Don't quote me on that. But like we don't have
anybody that's advocating for your pay.
No. We have a director of national teams, but he works for the national office, So like we don't have anybody on our end. So we rely on each other to like, we look at the player contract and we think, what do we think? Like, do we like it? Do we not like it? But, a few people have agents, but if I had like Jake's agent will do stuff for me, read contracts and stuff, but he's not going to make any money off of me. Right. So a lot of the people that do have agents, it's because they're a bigger name, but like most of us don't have anybody representing us. So I think that's an issue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just because it becomes personal, because now it's like, instead of having someone representing us and communicating that with them, it's now like you versus me, and like it just becomes a little sticky when like we're trying to communicate stuff to the national office directly as players. It'd be nice, obviously, if we could just worry about playing.
Yeah. On a separate note, I just noticed you banged the headphones completely.
Yeah.
I did. They were cutting in and out. And so I'm going now 0 headphones.
That's not good. It's not what we want.
No. How do I sound?
You sound good, but that now worries me that if there was a problem with them. I think we're good. I mean, everything looks good.
Yeah.
It might be a problem with the headphones.
I'm soldiering through just fine. I feel great.
I just thought it was funny because I knew you were messing with it. That
do you have a cord?
Do you have a take on the wage gap on kind of what we're talking about? Do you agree or do you feel differently? Because if you agree,
I'm terribly underinformed on the issue.
Yeah, so let's just move on then.
I will say from the conversation that we've had and what I've learned in talking, I feel like the no union thing is an issue. Like, yeah, for all the reasons that we said, like, you got to have somebody that's, kind of like fighting for, on your behalf. So, and then when it, like you said, when it's like each player for themselves, a lot of people just want to play.
Right.
That's all, like, like that's how I was. Like, I don't want to talk about money and what I should make. Just like, you're going to let me go play, I'll go play. Yeah. And it's hard to like, you have to have somebody that doesn't feel that way to like actually like fight the battle of it.
Right.
That's a great point. I'm really glad you made that point.
Thank you.
Okay, so one of the things I also want to talk about, I like talking about when we have other players, athletes, is that obviously riding the bus, it's not so much a literal thing as it is a figurative thing of grinding your way, basically, through the minors. I mean, that's obviously how we mean it. But you talked a little bit about, similar kind of grind, being an Olympic athlete and how long that's taken you. Do you have, like, specific riding the bus moments where you were like, damn, like, what am I doing? Like, you either got to be like, because I feel like there's always those moments where it's like, you either got to be all in or you got to get out.
Yeah.
Because there's these moments of just like, damn, you would only encounter this problem, like, doing what I'm doing. Like, some of this shit is just not fun. But, like, because I don't know if you guys, like, travel by bus or like, but, like, do you ever have those moments where it's just like for me, for instance, it'd be like, 3:00 in the morning, we're at like a rest stop, middle of nowhere. It's just like, am I doing this? Like, am I going all in on this, or is this really what I want to do? Is this what I love doing? So, like, do you have multiple of those moments? Did you have, like, one of those moments early in your career?
Yeah. A line that I heard someone say in the league a few months ago was buy in or retire. Like, so that's just pretty much what it comes down to. Yeah. Like, you're either going to buy in or you need to retire.
Right.
My first year on USA, we bussed a lot. And then once we got voted in for 2020, they upped, the USOPC upped our budget for USA softball. So that allowed for us to, like, fly more instead of bus. But yeah, we would bus from, like, Ohio to Toronto, or there were some bus rides where I was like, okay. And luckily it was my first year, so I was kind of just excited to be there, like, on the USA team. But I don't know. I think too, yeah, before the Olympics was a possibility for USA softball, like, I was considering, if we're not in the Olympics, if we get voted down in 2016, like, what is my motivation to continue playing? Because people aren't making that much in the pro league either, which is so sad, because you see these athletes that are just, like, standout All-Americans just stop playing at, like, 22.
Yeah.
It's really sad. But I think then there's also, like, I was coaching part-time, making $7,000 a year, and then so I could play during the summer, and, like, found a coach that would understand, like, that schedule. So it's like,
yeah.
And then during the summer, I'm just, like, making per diem. So I started out, like, really just, like, okay, what am I doing? And then I got married, and then it's like there's that pressure of, like, should I just move on with my life? Like,
yeah.
So there's definitely been moments like that. I can't think of, like, anything super specific, but there have definitely been times before, like, I made the Olympic team, or before I thought I had a good chance of making the Olympic team, that I was like, man, what if I just keep doing this and then I just don't make it?
Yeah. Can I tell you how messed up I feel like a minor league baseball player's brain is when you said making $7,000 a year. My first thought was, it's not bad. I was like, yeah, it's
I was so close. I was so close to being like, you should put some of that away.
Yeah. That's good. That's good money.
Nah. I was just thinking though, like, for me personally, on the riding the bus, type thing, like, there's a lot of those moments. There's a lot of moments that make you question it, but then there's also a lot of moments where it's like, this does suck in a way, but it's also like awesome. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, for sure.
Like we're like, and like I'm never gonna get that mix of suck and awesome in anything else that I do. I get that a lot on bus trips where it's like, yeah, when's the next time I'm gonna be just like traveling by bus through South Dakota?
Yeah,
you know,
I feel that for sure. Cause like. And then a lot of people will tell you, play as long as you can because you're never going to get this back. And that actually does resonate with me a lot because once you're done, it's like nearly impossible to decide that you want to go do that again. And it's almost irrational. And I agree with that of like, it's everything, every high is like that much greater because of like all of the grinding and sucky moments that like, you know, that it took to get there. It's like, that gold medal feels like so much. I just think like even greater knowing that like we all made barely any money this whole year and just grinded it out and like every single person was committed to doing it and we're standing on top of the podium. Like I think that's really cool because Japan gets paid pretty good money to play in their pro league, and so I don't know. It's just I like that. Yeah.
Can I tell you probably one of, if not my favorite things about my co-host D-Wash that I've always loved is he talks a lot about embracing the grind, and I feel like he does that as good as anyone I've played with. Like about the bus rides, about you know, whenever we talk about, you know, these grindy moments, essentially, you know, I've always loved his outlook of like, I mean, yeah, that's what you gotta do. You know, you almost have to love the fact that you have to go through that to then get to where you ultimately want to go. It's almost like I feel like he feels, and what I feel too is like, it wouldn't be as enjoyable if you didn't have to go through that in order to get to where you ultimately want to go.
Right. Yeah.
It's almost like the really poopy parts of the stuff we do is almost like it like lays the foundation or like the like gives like the capacity to have like really enjoyable moments. Because if you didn't have that,
and it bonds people.
Yeah.
Like with your teammates.
People that you go through that with,
yes.
like, yeah, like you don't run into people on the street that understand that part of it.
Yeah.
I think that's kind of the idea somewhat behind the podcast and the people we talk to. I think we gravitate towards those people because it's just like you understand each other in a way that no one can understand unless you've been through it.
Right.
You know?
Yeah, because when you talk to your family about like when we're explaining our schedule and stuff, it's like, to them it's like straight comedy and you're like, okay, this is just my life.
Because it is crazy. It's a crazy schedule. But it's like you become so used to it, and you either have to embrace it or you got to get out.
Yeah.
You know, talking to friends or family about it's like if you've never been on a 15-hour bus ride through the night where you had to sleep on the ground of a bus and then pitch or play the next day, it's like it just gives you such a different perspective on life in general.
Okay, so does that mean that neither of you guys are, or maybe more specifically you, but like that you're never the guy like complaining?
I do my best to form my complaints as like sarcastic sounding positive statements. Like, 16-hour bus ride. Oh, this is going to be fun.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like if it's like I was already on the bus and like D-Wash got on and it was like some, they changed something with like what time you're going to get in or something bad. I'd be like, oh, did you hear about this? Like, it's like, it's going to be great.
That's awesome. I try to do that.
Yeah.
Which helps me out because it kind of balances me out. That's why I like playing with him. Because I try not to complain, but it's also hard not to get like negative in those times. Like, oh my God, seriously? Like we're going to do that? And like, so that I always like when I tell D-Wash, and he, expecting, at least in the beginning, almost like, yeah, totally, I'm right there with you. It's like, it is what it is. And I'm like, I needed that. Yeah. I needed it to be put like that to kind of help me out.
When something's like so bad that it's funny, I feel like that helps prepare you for life. Like there are gonna be really sucky things that happen, in life, and if you can find the humor in it.
Were you ever around like Halflane when Halflane was going?
Yeah, I never did it, but I would you guys do.
Okay.
Go into a brief
I was gonna Phil Koch that he was doing it, and like he told me, because there'd be times doing it where like you get really really fatigued and like really just want to give out on whatever you're doing. And he put me on. He was like, I just start laughing at myself. Like whenever it gets really, really hard, I just think of how ridiculous I must look and like whatever. And like he said, I started trying to do that, and stuff gets easier when you start laughing at it.
Yeah,
like
that's actually really interesting.
And that's just, I just realized like on long bus trips and stuff, this is only going to get harder.
Right.
The more negative I go.
Yeah.
You might as well laugh at it.
That's so I agree with that. And looking back on it, like I feel like laughing at situations definitely helped me.
Laughing is my
career.
favorite.
I'm like, this is gonna be a great story one day.
That's why stand-up comedy like is a thing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you're just wanting someone to make you laugh.
Life sucks, and like
you
gotta laugh at it.
I could either be depressed or I could laugh at it.
Yeah.
You know? If those are my two options, how are you not taking laughing? You know. All right. So one of the other things we like to do is we always like to do like a, this or that, or we ask these kind of questions of like, would you take this or would you take that? I know our popular one is Mike Trout versus LeBron. We're not going to get into that one again. But one thing I did want to ask you, obviously being a softball player, is,
Oh my gosh.
well, hold on, is, the debate basically of who would have more success, basically a major league pitcher versus a softball hitter or a softball pitcher versus a major league hitter. Or we could just, if you wanted to make it more personal, just me versus you, and then D-Wash versus whoever.
I was going to ask, have you and Jake like gone head to head?
He won't let me because he thinks he's gonna hit me.
Yeah.
Which I'm a smaller frame, so he could probably break something.
Yeah, that would be bad.
Yeah, but
Also, like just spot up,
yeah,
execute
exactly.
one time.
Yeah.
Throw strikes.
Maybe let's not go straight to failure, and have confidence in ourselves. But
no, I think that I don't know. It's like it's hard because like I stand or I sit behind the catcher when I watch Jake throw bullpens. I'm like, geez, that ball moves a lot, compared to softball. But you also the distance that you have to you just have more time. I feel like that's huge as a hitter. To just feel like you have a little bit more time. Which you probably don't feel like that as a baseball player because that's the distance that you always play at. But I feel like if a softball player were to stand in against a baseball pitcher, I just feel like they would have maybe a little bit better chance to...
There's no wrong answer.
Yeah, I know. To have success rather than... Because I feel like a pitcher being so much closer and then just whipping in rise balls against you, I don't know. That seems a lot harder.
That's where I would worry a softball pitcher facing D-Wash. I feel like that would go right into his swing.
You like the ball up on the zone?
No, I would struggle.
You don't think so?
I think I would.
You don't think it rising?
Mightily.
You don't think you would? That'd be good for you.
I feel like the little bit I've seen of softball swings, I feel like you want a flatter, right? Because the ball doesn't have as much. That for the people on YouTube.
Because it does. There is a drop ball, but it's not angled like this.
You don't set your swing to a drop ball angle, I'm assuming. I don't know. I know so little about how to put together a softball swing.
I mean, I think there is
never stop you from giving your opinion. So I don't want that to start now.
It won't stop me.
I think there's an approach for a drop ball, but it's not like there is I would say you can set your swing, so to say.
Okay.
But it's not as you're not facing that angle as consistently as you are in baseball. Whereas that was the big thing in college. It was does she have upspin or downspin? Because most people have either. They don't have both.
Interesting. So straight up, me versus you, you're taking you over me. You're saying you'd beat me.
You have to say yes.
Yes.
You don't have to because I'm thinking there is one way to find out.
Well, see, you have a really good changeup, and that's been a struggle for me.
But I don't throw it a lot to lefties, so that could be
okay. Then I got you.
Bennett's an interesting guy, and Bennett's really good at pitching, but
the only way that was being said if a butt was following.
Oh yeah, the butt came really quick after that. But for me, stereotypically, I hate lefties, right? Mm-hmm. Bennett is a more comfortable lefty for a lefty hitter than most lefties, if that makes sense.
Is it because he comes so over the top?
Yeah, and he doesn't like his breaking ball as much as his changeup.
Well, I don't like it because it's not as good.
Right.
It's not like it's equally as good.
See, I wasn't gonna say that. I was just gonna say you don't like it.
No, my career splits have always been backwards.
Oh yeah, you were telling me this.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah,
I get lefties out.
It was kind of funny, like when we would play together and we would, like, you know, because he was dominating the league to like start the season, and like we'd play a team and he was facing for the first time, and they would load the lineup with righties, and I was like, yeah, y'all got the wrong idea.
I'll be honest. There's only been one. It was either in Long Island. There's only been one team I've ever faced in my career that figured it out and went like second, third time facing. They went all lefties. I don't remember which that team was. No. I mean, listen. I think I'm a good pitcher, so it's not like I'm like I can't get lefties out. It's just like I don't get them out at the same, and I don't get them out the same way. I guess I don't get as many I guess I would say I don't get as many strikeouts against lefties as I do against righties. Still get them out. I think my biggest issue of why I struggle with lefties is my inability to throw inside to lefties for some reason.
Yeah.
I think it's part of it's the breaking ball. I think it's less about that, and I just in general feel like
does it bother you if someone like toes up to the line?
Oh no, I love that.
Okay.
I, unlike your husband, don't have a problem hitting people. I actually enjoy it because I don't like hitters very much.
I feel like he really doesn't hit that many people. He just hits enough to where it's a thought.
Yeah, I don't know how you could ever think that.
Did you guys talk about his pick yips?
No, and we don't need to. We're all fans of his, and we hope he has nothing but success when he goes to Angels camp this year. And we don't need to bring up the negative
all right, you can cut that
part
out.
of it. I don't know. That's all I got. Unless you got anything else. I feel like you should have like some questions you want to know about like a baseball player.
There was one thing I did want to ask you about, and that was like how like seniority plays coming into the Olympic teams. That's a big thing in baseball is in a clubhouse, especially now. Like we've been in a lot of clubhouses for a good amount of time. Is like where you've been, how long you've been there, and kind of how that changes like the dynamics in the clubhouse, and like what's that like going in that group for the first time, and then once you've been in it for a little while.
I think we have an interesting dynamic because so we have two pitchers, Monica Abbott and Kat Osterman. Do you guys know who they are?
Kat Osterman sounds familiar.
Okay, yeah. So
has she's been around a little bit?
Yeah, so they're both like former Olympians. They went and played pro, so like left the national team, and then Kat actually retired, and then they both like Monica came back in 17 or 18 or something like that, and then Kat came back in 19. So it's like you have people that have been a part of the national team for a long time, like a decade, but in that time those people like those two were not there, but they had been there before. And then they came back. So when you talk about like seniority, it is interesting because then it's like in that time we've like built this new culture, and then it's trying to blend the two because they're Olympians, like they're super talented. And so it's been interesting for our team just because of the dynamic of like softball being in and out of the Olympics. But yeah, I think my first year I was literally just happy to be there. Like, because I never had that dream growing up of like, I want to play on the USA team because I never thought I would be good enough. So when I made it, I was like, this is crazy. And then, it's weird because you try out every year. So there's no real security, it feels like, in whereas I don't know, my only other experience is college where, like, unless you're doing really, really bad, you are pretty guaranteed that you're going to be there for 4 years.
Right.
So I haven't felt like a veteran until maybe since, like, the 2020 team was named. Even though I've served as an elite athlete on the board of directors of USA Softball, like, I've had leadership roles, but just the fact that I could get cut any given year makes it feel like we're all in the same boat, so to speak. So I think that now we're trying to build that. Like, culture and type of thing, because there are people that like this is their first year on the team, and then there's also people where it's their 10th year, but we're all going to the Olympics for the first time together. So it is a strange dynamic, but I think that the extra year has actually helped us, because we can all like, you kind of get brainwashed always performing, and I guess you guys get that too, like where you feel like you're always performing, you're always being evaluated. But it just felt like, you know, you're one of 15 to 20 people depending on the roster size each year, and you just feel like your head coach is watching everything that you do and judging you for the next tryout. So it just feels really uncomfortable. And so then when the 2020 team was named and it was like, okay, this is the group that's going, it was hard to switch to, okay, I can just like work on getting better and not work on like performing every time, every practice, every game, every moment.
That's a tough, like it's such an uncomfortable mindset, but at the same time it's almost like that's, I don't know, like that's how people get better too. So it's weird, but yeah, I definitely hear what you're saying. Like I know it took me a long time in the minor leagues to be like, okay, I'm not getting released like in spring training, like, you know, like, okay, I'm probably breaking with a team. Like, yeah, that uncertainty is pretty wild.
I was gonna say, I think I know the answer now, but like, do you think that uncertainty makes you a better player? Because I always said like my biggest problem with minor leagues is like the stress of the uncertainty, and there was no stability. And it's like I didn't know where I was gonna go every year, but also, if I'm being honest, I had a lot of success like personally. And I always felt like it made me better, because you feel like it makes you strive almost for perfection. I know no one could be perfect, but it's like I have to, because I don't know if I'm gonna get another one. You know, if this one's bad, there's no guarantee I'm gonna get another one, type of thing. So I think that definitely helps. But I was always like, I do wonder if I did get that stability. Let's say I signed like a multi-year deal or whatnot. Then would I get worse because I don't have that anymore, or would it be like, well, now I can just focus on the thing I want to do. I can just focus on pitching. I can just focus on training. I don't have to focus about all the other outside stuff. So I've always been really kind of fascinated by that dynamic that you're talking about, where it's like every year you got to prove yourself. But then what if they gave you the option where you didn't anymore? Wouldn't that be kind of like, oh shit, well, I'm used to having to prove myself every year?
I think that everything can make you better. So I think that instability...
That was deep.
I think that the instability probably in the long run has like made me better somewhat, but I think it also comes back to like your work ethic, because even though I was really successful in college, like I was never content, and it wasn't because I was worried about losing my scholarship or anything like that. Like I just wanted to be great. So I think that for me personally, I don't think that security would make me like content to the point of not working hard.
Yeah. No, that's a great point.
That would be the danger of it. Is that it would make you lazy.
Right. Because I've played with people like that. I'm sure we all have, where it's like, okay, you're struggling and you're not going to get extra work, or you're not going to do what is going to get you better. And I can't understand that, like just with like how I've grown up, because my dad was like, I mean, from the time I was 11, I was hitting in the garage like 4 or 5 times a week, me and my sisters. So like, and that helped me get to where I am. It hasn't always helped me, because you can't just like work your way all the time. Like it's more complex like when you get to the higher levels, but like not doing what you need to do to be your best, regardless of, you know, how secure your position is, like just doesn't resonate in my mind. Yeah.
We talk about a lot, like money and let's say stability in this case. It doesn't define you. It just enhances like who you are, essentially. So like, I agree with, it is interesting to hear you say it, because it's like, yeah, like that wouldn't, the stability or the money that maybe you would get for it would not change who you were. It would just enhance you either way, essentially. And I think ultimately that's almost the thing that defines most athletes. You see a lot of guys, they do well, they sign a big contract, and then that's kind of it. And then you see someone like let's say Tom Brady. It's like no reason to keep playing, right?
Right.
Accomplished everything most athletes could accomplish in multiple lifetimes, you know? But that drive of just like, yeah, but I'm not happy yet. Well, not that I'm not happy, but like I just love this. I love this this chase basically, and just keep going. It just enhances who you are. It doesn't change who you are.
Which I think like being like competing and like grinding and things like that, like that's fun.
Right.
So like just doing something because you're collecting a paycheck, like it just doesn't sound fun to me.
Right. No, it sounds like we're all very competitive people. It sounds like none of us would ever be like, hey, do you want to compete against this person? And we go, no, because I'm afraid that I might do something
I've been there,
bad
though,
type
before.
of thing. Like other people we know who shy away from competition because they're afraid of the worst possible outcome as opposed to beating the person in front of them. But we don't need to get into that. But we know what I'm talking about. Okay. I'm sorry, I cut you off. You're about to say something.
No, I was just going to say, like, I've been there before where, like, I remember going into one tryout where I was, like, I was telling my dad, like, it's scary to lay it all out there and then possibly fail. And he was like, that's lame. No, he gave me, like, a good father-daughter conversation. But, like, I think that a lot of athletes struggle with that. Like, if I give 100%, if I work as hard as I can, and then I still don't succeed, like, that's going to suck more than if I hold back and I fail and I'm like, well, I didn't really give it all.
Right.
My all.
Because you talk about the things that we're all trying to accomplish, the vast majority of people are not going to get there.
Right.
So it's like it's already built in that, 99% of the people that go for this are not going to get it.
Yeah.
So like, yeah, it becomes pretty daunting when you look at it like that. So it's like, yeah, you can't look at it like that. If you start looking at it like that, you're going to have no shot.
No regrets.
Yeah. No regrets.
Not even one letter.
I don't know if we can use that because we don't have the movie rights, but
if you can't quote movies in this podcast, we're only going to be able to drop like 7 episodes a season.
Yeah, we would have been taken down a while ago, probably.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's good. I think I think that was really cool. Just want to say thank you, Janie, for coming on the episode.
Thank you.
I hope it was everything you were hoping it would be.
It was great.
I hope you weren't nervous.
I wasn't.
Hope you had fun. Your first entertaining podcast.
I did. I really did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
D-Wash, this is where you would say something.
Yeah. Thank you so much for coming on. Sorry Bennett couldn't, clean up the language a little bit for you.
That's fine.
He makes no apologies for who he is.
No, he doesn't. And we love that about him.
Thank you.
No, seriously, thank you for coming on, and it's been a blast. And best of luck to you going into the Olympics. I'm sure it's going to be an amazing time.
Yeah, follow Team USA. Obviously, we're rooting for Team USA. Well, not all of us. I saw we have some actually international listeners, so maybe not everyone's rooting for Team USA.
Do you have anything to plug before we wrap it up?
Oh.
Team USA.
Did that. I don't know if you want to plug your social media or your sponsors.
I'm not good
you're a
at
sponsored
doing
athlete.
Plugs.
Yeah, we'll go plugless.
We have a multiple sponsored athlete. We have a New Balance, Rawlings, and Franklin sponsored athlete.
There you go.
So obviously check out those companies.
Yes.
They're good.
Go with them.
And I mean that because the Riding the Bus podcast gets absolutely nothing from those companies. So that's just a free plug.
Anything that we shout out at this point, we're just doing, the kindness of our heart.
But what you should do is you should follow Riding the Bus podcast on Instagram. You should either listen to this on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or watch this on YouTube when it comes out on Wednesday. Thanks for listening.